Norwalk, a committee of the whole meeting. Has appropriate meeting notification been made? Today is February 3rd, 2023.
It has, Your Honor.
If you'd please call roll.
Alderman Ellis. Here. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Alderman McConnell's absent. Alderman Youngworth.
Here.
Alderman Rosick. Here. Alderman Altman Close. Here.
Great, well, welcome everybody. We have committee business. We have one item. This is the presentation of the Western Sanitary Sewer Study. So, Tim, Kevin, Fred.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as you stated, we're going to be, we began this effort in August of 2025 with council approval. And with the goal of this study to, real briefly, identify core sanitary sewer infrastructure needs for two specific areas within the city. So I'm not going to steal any thunder from the crew that's here from Rupert Milky. So I'll just briefly, after they walk you through the presentation, I'd like to hear feedback from everyone here, tonight, and then just briefly touch on next steps that we'd like to do after this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stan, Abby, and Dave.
Good evening, everyone. Stan Sugden. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the analysis that we've completed for the two areas. One is the area, we refer to it as the west side, and how that area would be served with sanitary sewer. And then after we finish that one, then we'll shift gears and move down to area 2, which is the south side of the city, which is some areas that are unsewered. So with me tonight, I have Abby Hansen and Dave Arnott, engineers from our office. They are the individuals that did the work on the study. And we're going to let them go through, Abby will go through pieces of it. Dave was here to talk about some of the pumping alternative and what we'll need to do as far as the pumping of the sewage. And then as I said, we'll go to area 2 after that. So I'm going to start off with turning it over to Abby for a discussion about area 1.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to start by just talking about the sanitary sewer, and then Dave will dive into more of the lift station, and then we'll kind of wrap up with some costs specific to the city costs for these areas. So starting off area 1, which on the screen you can see is this upper area. So this is referred to as the western area. I'll also be referring to it as the Redolin Road area. So as you can see, this area is largely undeveloped, as with area 2. With these areas, we started off by getting a layout for the potential sanitary sewer from the city. So the city did provide that layout to RM. And then from there, we had a couple of goals that we were focusing on. So we primarily focused on achieving gravity collection with a minimum velocity of 2 feet per second, with getting that to a single lift station, all while maintaining depth to prevent need for any hung plumbing. So with that being said, then we did our calculations to get the projected sanitary sewer size and lift station sizing. So for area 1 up here, we had 2 alternatives that we ended up on. And for those alternatives, the first one, they were both serviced by 1 lift station. So I'm gonna move to these figures. So this is our alternative 1 for this western area. Again, these layouts were provided by city staff, and this alternative has 1 lift station. You can see represented by the diamond down here. And this could be all serviced by gravity alone. So everything you're seeing in blue, red, yellow, those are different sizes of the sanitary sewer, but it would all be conveyed by gravity to the lift station. Then from the lift station, which Dave will talk about more, have a force main. Then from alternative 2, moving on to this figure. So as you can see, the lift station is, instead of being over here, we're now up here now with the lift station. This one is slightly different because we are unable to service this western area by gravity. So we would have a low-pressure sewer system, likely by grinder pumps in this area, and then the rest would be serviced by gravity. Both force mains are similar length back into the plant, but now I'm going to pass it over to Dave to talk about the pump station for just this western area. Then we'll shift gears to talk about area 2.
Good evening. So when we looked at the pumping stations, we considered the city standards for lift stations. So the city has certain standards that you maintain for safety, operation, and maintenance. You have typically, historically, provided high-quality equipment that really adds value that lasts for decades and decades. So that's the approach when we sized the lift stations and costed them out. We are very familiar with the lift station standards in the city, and we helped write those standards years ago. So this station right here, in both alternatives, they're sized at 750 gallons per minute. That is the peak hour flow rate that we anticipate being tributary to the stations. And the force main is shown in the dashed line. So the force main route is, for example, on alternative 2, it goes south on Redland Road and then east on Allen Road. So the kind of the boundary we came up with for this study is the outlet of the force main, and that is just downstream of the intersection of Concord Road and Lincoln. That's just on the other side of the river. So that's where we kind of drew the line.
Hold 1 second, I'm sorry. Where are you? Are you on this map here?
Yeah,
Sorry. If you want a bigger picture into where we are in the community, is that the question, Kevin?
Yeah, because I'm really lost. He's talking about east and west and north and,
Yeah, so no, this is, this area, immediately west of the city out Allen Road here. So
Right.
This is the area, it's approximately 760 acre area that we're
Okay.
looking at out there. So, is that helpful?
clear as mud.
So show the Allen Road to where they ended their study at the bridge.
Okay, so this is where I'm following here, kind of with the cursor. Allen Road comes down here. We anticipate, and the study area would end right here, just east of the bridge.
Okay.
That's the study limits.
that's correct.
Okay.
And then later on, we have an agenda item to have it, to look at from that point downstream to the plant.
That's correct, the hydraulic.
And where's the plant?
The plant on this right here, I just had to check the
There, right there. No, up,
Went over it.
right there.
Yep.
So we're gonna go from that point where you were the first time, all the way over to where the cursor is right now?
Yeah, depending on where the lift station was, it would be pumping 7,200 feet to this location right here. Then it would hit existing gravity lines, follow this pathway down Worthington to the plant.
We could drop some of that off at your house or go right past your house,
You
Kevin.
mean like all the snow that they put there, after I shovel?
There's a special directive for that.
Thanks, Tim. So, yeah, the lift stations and the force main go hand in hand. The force main is shown in the dashed line. Just for the sake of the scale, we didn't show it going all the way to the end of the study area. And the cost we had for the lift stations in alternatives 1 and 2 was $1.18 million. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Abby for the southern area.
Just going to wrap up this western area quickly, and then we'll go on to the southern area. But just to reiterate, so we had 2 alternatives for the western area. The first,
Hold on 1 second, I'm
Yep.
sorry. The brown,
yes,
we're not servicing, we have to use a pump to be able to get there?
this is one of the alternatives that, yes, in this In this alternative, we would need low-pressure sewer, so it'd likely be grinder pumps, to then connect into the sanitary sewer that's shown in yellow,
Right.
and then the pump station's up here.
And the first diagram, we didn't have that problem.
Correct.
So why are we even talking about the second?
It depends on how development occurs. So if, for example, this parcel were to develop first, this could be an alternative that would still be successful in achieving the city's goals of development in that order. And then you'd still be able to service all of this area by gravity. But all that to say, in our alternatives of these two, alternative one would be our recommendation because of what you were saying and a couple other. So when you break down the costs, if you have a higher density, this alternative becomes more advantageous because it is all gravity. But when you move to a lower density, for example, if this is a lower density, then this alternative could be more attractive. So with these two, your costs are going to be the total costs, so capital plus operation and maintenance for alternative one, which again is just the gravity, the force main, lift station, is just over 9.7 million. And then for alternative two, which is the combination of the gravity and the grinder pumps with operation and maintenance, is 10.5 million. The city costs of those portion, we estimated out to be, I'll try to highlight it. So it would be this, the force main, the lift station, and then this yellow sewer, which is considered more of a mainline sewer, would be city cost that would be later assessed back. For alternative one, that would be just over 4.3 million. And then same thing for alternative two. Force main, lift station, the main yellow sewer. That would be 4.3 million, just over that.
So then the rest of that money would have to come from the town,
The developer.
the developer?
Well, it's all gonna come from whoever develops the land.
Okay.
So the
That's,
cost,
I'm just trying to get my brain
Right.
wrapped around.
so the cost that Abby's talking about right now, where she talked about the city putting in something, we would take that on as a project in order to put what I'll call the backbone into servicing that area. So these are this is the facilities that convey everything back to the plant. It's not the distribution through a subdivision. Someone else is gonna pay for that. We're gonna put in the backbone. They're gonna be able to connect to that. But we will then be assessing all of these properties through various methods for our cost of putting that in. We will get it back that way then.
Over time.
Right, because right now, a developer's not gonna come in and front all the money for the backbone and try to do a development on some of the land if they don't own all of it. Because that's a very large expense for them, and they're not gonna carry that. So if the city wants to see development happening out in this area, and this is, the question, this is what it would take to get the sanitary sewer there, and this is just the sanitary. Water's under pressure, so it's easier. You can go up and down, and you don't have all the same expense that you have with sanitary. But, when we came to the council, quite a while ago, and this goes back to when Kevin Freeber was here, when we started looking at areas that came into the city from the town of Summit at that time that are sitting out there, we don't have sanitary sewer to them. And the people are saying, well, what's going on? I want to develop my land, but you're telling me I can't because a developer's not going to front the money. So that's why we're coming now and looking at these areas to say, okay, as a city, what do we need to do in order to allow for these areas to develop? And this is what the study is showing. So this is just part of it. So this is what, area one, the western side. So on this, we're looking at roughly 4.3 million would be the city's expense of getting the backbone in. And then, as I mentioned, that would then get assessed back or, somehow come out in a way that we would get our money back over time.
What's a reasonable number of homes that could be built out here? Do you have any, do we have any guess?
Banks, they had a number,
Yes.
452.
So you're talking $25,000 a home. That's exceedingly high, right?
But is it assessed over what period of time? Assessed to them over a
At the
certain period of
build,
time?
I mean, that's due at
Well,
the time
you
of
know,
building,
generally it's
right?
upon connection or sale.
You
So
know, okay.
if the land sits there and doesn't get sold and someone doesn't develop to connect, it's,
In like in Prairie Woods, what would an average be there, an assessment there? Do you have any, we talking 5,000, 12,000? Prairie Ridge, rather.
10,000.
10.
I think that's all the city fees. Is 10,000, because it's like.
Impact fees,
Yeah,
I would
it's
think.
3,700 for the lift station. They got the North Interceptor, which is another $4,000, you know, just in those, so, yes, it's lower. The easy stuff is done.
It's
You know,
just
when-
good to have that
When you
context.
start looking at lift stations and running the force main, you know, all the way down Allen Road, that's a very long run, and then under the river, and then getting it to the plant yet, so.
What does that even create in net new construction either over, I mean, every year? I mean, you're talking about 452 homes. It seems like that's probably pretty minuscule overall in terms of how much you'd be able to get on the levy of that from that.
So,
And
you
then
know,
even the
numbers-
city's portion is
yeah.
even smaller.
Yeah, the numbers they're looking at is assuming 3 units per acre. And one of the things that we've said all along, that something like this comes along, and when they start looking at this cost, I would look for them to ask for additional densities in order to be able to have a project that works for them.
So more than 452 homes.
Correct.
That's land where people would want larger homes out in the country. I mean, right, I mean, there's some really beautiful land
Yeah.
out there.
Not necessarily. Put a lot of apartments there.
A lot of really small homes, then we can add a lot of apartments.
And we don't own the property.
Who's asking
Rents
for
not
this
the
to be
city.
put out there? Just for future growth? What was the purpose of doing the study? Do we
The pur-
know?
Mark?
The study in general.
So,
I don't know, Tim, if you want-
So the reason why, and I'm sorry, Tim, I did this to you in department head, so it's not gonna change here either. So the reason for the study is we're out of developable land. We're running out. And this is land that came into the city through a border agreement. And we indicated when we brought it in that we'd serve this. And so now a decision's gotta be made. Are we going to serve it?
Is this our land? Because I see
This is
town of
this.
Oconomowoc.
Now, you are correct. In this area, there is some land up in the town. We showed piping up in that area. They've never come in and asked, you know, anything. We have never heard anything from the people within that town land. But we'd like to think that, you know, over time, eventually, lands do develop. And so we figured in that should they come in to develop, could we serve it? We're not gonna spend money to put piping in there.
That was my next question.
So we're just doing the backbones. The yellow lines in the lift station.
So a developer will come in and say, okay, you don't have the infrastructure, what does it cost? Or do you have a plan? And so that's typically when this land becomes up for sale at some point in time. This is a groundwork to get that answer. And I've literally had people
I'm
ask
just
me
concerned that
this.
it's in the town of Oconomowoc. I'd like to see it, I'd just like to see that lift station in the city.
And you're saying though we're running out of, you know, land to develop, but I guess that goes back to the point of like, well, how much does this even yield to the levy? Because ultimately, you're saying we're running out of land to develop to create additional net new construction to raise the levy, right? That's why you're talking about it from that. So I wonder what it means in practice.
Matt, if I may to get back to your question a little
Yeah,
bit.
that'd
So
be
there was, you know, not to, you know, throw out names, but there has been interest from developers in this particular area. And we did want to provide them good guidance on how it should develop. Because we do want people to develop on city services. That's our goal, our preference. So we want to provide good guidance to them for that infrastructure versus waiting over time and developing little bits, right? That then become, you know, seems more appropriate to look at a larger parcel and look at how we can service that versus, we could end up with a situation where we might have 2 or 3 lift stations because of how development occurred versus having a good long-range plan. And that's what we're trying to go for here, to provide that guidance and direction for developers that are interested in these areas.
What is there a proposal right now for us to spend money to install any city portion of this? Somebody said there was some city portion of this to spend.
Oh, right, so what Abby was getting at in the study, in Appendix C, it does talk about costs associated with that. So, and I didn't want to, in some of that larger cost number, I'll just say, I'll just say that 10 million number, that's future cost. But in order to sort of jumpstart a project like this, the city and staff in discussion think that it may be appropriate for the city to assist in that jumpstart, but we would recoup those costs with assessments. That cost to jumpstart that project is that 4.3 number.
So what percentage of the 452 homes are in the city and what are in the village? Do you have that calculation?
I can get that information to you, I don't have that.
Is it
off
roughly, do you
the
have a
top of
rough?
my head. I don't know. Some of those numbers were developed by Jason Gallo. We talked about being here tonight, he'd have those off the top of his head, but I can certainly get those.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is the town. Yeah, there's no village stuff there. That is the leftover town.
That's the,
Well, that is the leftover town, yeah. So,
Actually, it's not the village.
but we're not going to get the tax benefit of it. I mean,
we wouldn't serve them unless they came into the city.
okay. So
We just showed this to show that those areas
Okay.
could be served.
So this all could be moot anyway.
Could be.
We would still have the backbone costs that we're talking here.
So the parcel that's, if you take Redland and Allen, and you go due west in that area has been for sale for several months, that whole swath of land. And we have had developers across on the southwest corner of Redland and Allen, that high area, that's called the Baling Farm, that have wanted to develop there. They actually came to the city, wanted to tie into the sanitary sewer to the east in the developments over there, but it wouldn't handle it. So they've come back multiple times saying, hey, how can you do that? So I think that's part of the impetus for this, but I think it's good planning to look at the big picture. But I don't want to spend a dime unless we have to. Not unless
Yeah,
there's no reason to put things in until there's a good reason for it.
What does the big picture look like as far as time-wise down the road? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years?
Up to landowners.
Well, I mean, some type of estimate, otherwise why is it before us tonight, I guess?
So this is a long process. This is just the very start of it. We're just here tonight talking about this is what it would take. We'd have to go back and, and if there's support for, looking at this further, then we would have to, look at coming back and doing RFPs for the design of it and getting that part done. You'd have to bid it, you gotta get it constructed. So you're a minimum, through 2027, probably before I would think we'd be up and operational. It maybe could be a little sooner if we really push it. If a developer came in and had an area that they wanted to develop on and we knew that we'd have someone there and they'd have an understanding of the cost, then we could push that. But you're probably looking 2027, but earliest, end of 2027. And, the
Or
way
later.
lands are developing now, you get Carrick and Bickler on the north end, they're on their last 88 houses. So if we want to keep things moving along, there's this piece, and then there's also the piece to the south that, they're going to be talking about next.
Redland Road has been improved there, but I mean, it feels like the rest of the infrastructure over there to handle potentially 400 home sites or more. It feels like we don't have the streets or roads in condition to handle that kind of, am I off in saying that?
Well, that road is actually very nice because it was
Redland
redone.
is, yeah.
Redland is.
But like Allen is,
but-
It's like a single lane.
but-
I mean, it's
yeah,
super
but it's-
narrow. It's,
Correct, no, I mean, it's in good condition now.
Yeah.
But your point is well taken, but that's going to be up to the developer to fund that.
But Allen Road is also, I'm going to assume, I don't, Jason, if he's here, but I'm assuming that's got to be in one of our street project plans anyhow, because that is a city street.
Yeah.
So when you get past York Imperial, Because we had redone Allen Road up to around the York Imperial, and so it's a really nice street there, curb gutter has a walking path. So we'd have to extend beyond that, but that is a city street for us to be looking at.
And that street from there going all the way down Allen, then turns into Morgan, that road is in horrible
Terrible.
condition.
Terrible.
I mean, I know that road quite well every day.
Yeah,
And,
it's gotta be next
but
on
you
the
don't
list.
want, yeah, but you don't want to start until you kind of figure out a long-term plan, if there's an interest, or if you have to put infrastructure in, we want to do it all at one time. So I think they're kind of looking at what's the long-term plan, and then those kind of pieces will fall into place, but 2027 or beyond is what I think they're looking at. This is not something you're going to be voting on here in a short moment, but I just applaud you guys for taking the forward look at it, because it eventually is something will happen.
So we'll be coming back and having more discussion. So tonight was they finished the study, we wanted a presentation so that everybody would have an understanding of what it takes for this area. We'll be looking at more things and coming back and having discussion. You know, just on the financial side of things.
We still have to get to the next section.
Perfect.
One of my constituents is texting me saying, tell Mark to get closer to his microphone, we can't hear him.
Tell your constituents not to text you during a meeting.
Well, you're the one always yelling at people to talk into the mic.
Yeah, I yell, I don't text.
Let's go ahead into the next region, Area 2, please.
Perfect. Okay, so now I'll be talking about Area 2, which is down here. So if you can see, this is Valley Road. So this is going to be referred to as south of Valley Road, or Area 2. Now moving in, I'm going to share more zoomed in figures. Again, there's two alternatives for this option as well. So with alternative 2, this is the new Arrowwood development, if you're familiar with that, to kind of orient yourself. Silver Lake Intermediate Schools over here. So for this one, there is a couple different options that we evaluated. With this alternative, this area, the north parcel off of Valley Road, could be serviced via gravity and connect into the existing development in Arrowwood. And then the rest of it would be serviced via gravity to the lift station, which is right here, except for a small portion down here, which again, similar to what you saw before, which is low pressure sewer, likely grinder pumps in this alternative. In this alternative, this parcel of land does have some issues that we have to deal with and look at with the grading. So it's pretty low in this area, so to achieve the gravity sewer, there would need to be a couple different options to be able to successfully service it. So the easiest of those would be to add some fill. Otherwise, we could do some hung plumbing or slab-on-grade construction.
That area is underwater every single spring. Very, very low.
Yes, yes. Then alternative 4, which is pretty similar. So if you look at this southern portion, again, you're seeing the lift station in the same spot. Same here, we have low pressure sewer over here. The only difference is that this area could be conveyed across Valley Road and then tie into the lift station over here. The main difference with these is dependent upon the order of development. If this parcel would be developed first, we could do this alternative and tie in to Arrowwood. If the opposite occurred or a different order occurred, we could explore this option of tying in south into the lift station. So now I'm going to hand it back over to Dave to talk about the lift station.
So these lift stations are smaller than what we saw on the north side. These are I think one is 300 gallons per minute under alternative 3. Alternative 4, we have 400 gallons per minute. The cost we had was $975,000 for the lift station. The lift stations, you can see the dash lines. The force main is routed on North Golden Lake Road to the north, and they will be discharging into the Concord Road lift station. So this new lift station will be discharging to an existing lift station. And that existing station has its own force main and is in operation right now and discharges to the wastewater treatment facility. That Concord Road lift station has extra capacity, so there are some upgrades that are required for that lift station. Rukert and Milky did a study in 2021 for Kevin Fraber on the ultimate capacity of the Concord Road lift station, and we came up with those improvements and a cost for that. And the cost is about $645,000. So I guess the good news is with this southern portion, you do need a lift station. It's going to pump to another lift station, but there are minimal upgrades at that second Concord Road lift station.
Okay, and then just to wrap us up, I already kind of mentioned the difference between the two alternatives for this one. There's not as big of a difference compared to the last area we looked at. Again, this one more just dependent upon this northern parcel area. But then to give you some costs for this area, they are pretty much the same. The force main would be the same length. So for both these alternatives, you're looking at about a total with operation and maintenance of $6.9 million. And then breaking that down, the city provided cost, again to be later assessed for just the force main and the pump and the lift station, you would be at 2.4, just over 2.4 million, and then the developer portion would be 4.2 million. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to any questions anyone may have.
So 6.9, is that what you said, the total?
Yes.
And how many homes?
Nope, sorry, 10.5.
Oh, 10.5.
Wait, let me, hold on. 296. Thank you. Sorry, no, I did, wait, what? 296 recs. Oh, yes, yes, sorry, it is 6.9, you are correct.
So actually a little worse than 23. I'm going to go out with a dumb question here, I guess. Is it ever a good idea, or is it a really bad idea, to do city water and allow septic in areas like this? So we can still get the growth, but not have to put in that kind of expense or tax the developer with that kind of expense where they may not be able to get a payback?
I'll do that one, Tim. Short answers, yes, we could look at that. As a city, our preference is always to be able to serve. Now, obviously, this would be the end of our system. That's usually why you want to keep serving out until you get to the end. This would be the end, but end of the day, well, let me back up. So we're meeting with a developer mid-February on part of that land up on the northern area. There's another developer that I think could be interested in the southern area that we wanted to provide the information to the Common Council before we went out and speaking to anybody else about it. So the reason why we're here tonight, so that you have the information first, but we'll go out and we'll start having that conversation with them. I mean, I'm not a fool. I'd rather see value coming into the city, even if it has to be on septic. My preference is that it's on sanitary and water. But It does us no good to put $4 million worth of infrastructure in the ground and not have anybody want to develop it because of the cost. And then I agree with you, then we would look at something that could be city water and septic.
Stan, I have a question for you. What is a typical septic system and/or a mound system cost the average household, a new one?
It has, there's a few factors that go into that. One of the biggest ones is that you
You
have
can
to have
never
a.
give a straight answer.
I know.
You ask a question and it's like, here's 10 options.
It's like an economist.
No heckling. I guess you got a text, Mark. No heckling. So, it has to do with how big those, or how big those homes are and the size of those. Mayor, I'm gonna throw out a number. It's probably, $25,000 to $30,000. And the reality is though, you have, the city has a certain density you're trying to achieve. If you put city homes on smaller lots, they are not gonna have a place for a drainage field and a place for a replacement field. And so the city's got all of the infrastructure, you've got a treatment plant, and you now know kind of where your borders are. And so it would, in my almost 40 years working at the city, not once have we tried to figure out a way to serve some land with a septic system. We have worked to develop the city's utilities, or utilities and the infrastructure that you have in place. There's other vacant land around the area that can be developed on septic. And obviously, that changed when the border agreement was done with the then town of Summit. We did bring in some properties that were already on septic, but the plans that we're looking at and trying to develop that infrastructure take into account how to serve those, serve those properties at some point. So you're gonna spend that money once for a septic, and then you're supposed to figure out what you're gonna do with it next. If you can kind of think about it in a 50-year time frame, well, 50 years from now, you're gonna be putting sewers in those streets because you're gonna need to figure out how to serve them because their septics aren't gonna be working. And so that's not, in my opinion, long-range planning for a community that's, got relatively higher density and has its own treatment facilities.
When I was just trying to compare that price for the
Yeah.
homeowner, because if your homeowner is gonna have to be assessed 20 grand for hookup, and they can, put a septic system in for 25 or 30, in the short term, we understand that. In the long term, septic is nice because you don't have the monthly cost, but
Yeah, so one of the things when we were accomplishing this study, we needed to put some numbers to some of those things. And some of those bigger numbers that Abby shared with you, they include, cost of sewers for the collection system in there. We just kind of wanted to know what we were up against. And the reality is that when somebody buys a lot, those are all included typically in the price of the lot from the developer. We whittled it back down to, here's the base, the backbone that we're talking about, which is the pump station, force main, and then maybe the trunk sewer, so that then the developers have the ability to connect to it. So when you look at those numbers, the smaller number is what would get assessed against those properties, and then the other numbers are in the cost of the lot with the developer. The other piece of this is that, somebody has to, otherwise we get the developers coming in and they say, we want to do this on this property, and so this is the ability of the wastewater utility to do some long-range planning on what is orderly development, because once you put that infrastructure in, the city's gonna own that facility for perpetuity. And so you wanna put in something that's gonna last, gonna serve a bigger area. And if I look at how the city's developed over the last 40 years, all the areas, almost every area of the city has had some base infrastructure that's gone in and then got paid back over time as development occurred. All of the infrastructure, all the property to the north, all the Pabst Farms area, all those, that base infrastructure was put in, and then that allowed the rest of the development to happen. So it's not an uncommon, you've been using it for.
questions or comments? Thank you, Stan.
Thanks, Dan.
Matt, you got anything else? Okay. Well, folks, thank you very much for coming. Tim, thanks for moving this forward. And council, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. For those in the audience, we'll be starting our common council meeting at 7:30. If you have any comments that you want to share with the council during the common council meeting, there's some blue cards here up at the podium, and one of our staff will come and grab them from you. to order the City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Would you please call roll?
Sure, Alderman Ellis? Here. Alderman Spiegelberg?
Here.
Alderman Mulder?
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper?
Here.
Alderman McConnell is absent. Alderman Youngworth?
Here.
Alderman Rosick?
Here.
Alderman Altman Cloth?
Here.
I'd like to ask you all to rise, and we have a couple of our candidates for aldermen I see in the audience. Folks, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You're standing right next to each other. Thank you. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
It has, Your Honor.
Great. If we call roll, we did that already, so we're good. I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for January 20th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move on to comments and suggestions from citizens. If you'd like to make a comment today on any topic that you would like to share with your elected officials, please fill out a blue card very quickly, and one of our staff, just raise your hand. They'll come over and pick it up. When I call your name, if you'd please come to the front podium, please identify with yourself with your name, your street address, and what municipality that you live in, and then share with us the comments that you have for the council. This is an opportunity not for you to tell our council your feelings and your thoughts, again, on any topic. It's not a two-way discussion where we're going to debate or talk and go back and forth. But these are things that give you the opportunity to put on the record and share your thoughts, and also, very importantly, things that are potentially on the agenda this evening. So what I'll do is I have a few cards. I'll read them out. If you could please come up, that would be great. If you're kind of running over time, I'll just ask you politely if you could kind of wrap it up. But we want to try to keep things fairly tight if possible, with about 3 minutes as your limit. So we're first going to start off with Justin Reynolds. Justin, if you'd please come up, sir.
Good evening. Justin Reynolds. My address is 490 Lake Bluff Drive. Thank you for what you do for Oconomowoc. Thank you for your service. And
Can you pull up your, there you go, great.
Thank you for your consideration. I'm here just regarding the Lake Bluff extension. Either way, I would like to continue to have this request. So I've lived at the 490 Lake Bluff Drive for about 10 years. It's on View 2, and you'll see it's close to Blue Dahlia and Lake Bluff Drive. Curved roads are designed to kind of reduce speeds, but in this case, where I live, it's a fairly sharp corner. And for the last 10 years, I've noticed speeders kind of coming around. And my kids are a little bit older, but we do have kids in the neighborhood, and we just want to make sure that they stay safe. So what I'm asking is a consideration for a three-way stop at Lake Bluff and Blue Dahlia, just to kind of reduce that speed. Usually boulevards can also increase speed because it's not a two-lane road, it's more of a four-lane road. So some people may forget that they're in a neighborhood. And that's all I'm asking is your consideration during this project. And thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And there can be some discussions, Justin, when this comes up on the item for the council. So I think you'll get some of your answers as to a direction there. So thank you. Next up is Vicki Gertz.
Good evening, and thank you, Council. My name is Vicki Gertz at 1281 Lily Road in Oconomowoc. Just real quick, it was my heart's desire at 8 years old to live in Oconomowoc. And I came to Oconomowoc in 1971. I've been here for 55 years. My concern is also for Lake Bluff. I would love it not to, I wished it wouldn't be opened up to Highway 67. I would like to protect our wetlands and to think about that. I have too many deer in my yard already eating my tomatoes and green beans and hostas. So, and also, I just kind of had a picture of all the traffic on Lake Bluff in the morning, and then trying to make a left-hand turn to get into Nature Hill School. Is there something else we could do? Could we, the entrance to Nature Hill School, could we make that like 2 lanes so we can have 2 lanes of traffic going to the school and coming out? I guess that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And just a comment for you, Vicki, we are working with the school district because there are a lot of challenges at Nature Hill with parking. A lot of it has nothing to do with the main road, has to do with inlets and outlets and traffic there. But we're trying to work to see if we can collectively come up with solutions there, irrespective of this project, because it's still something that is an issue. Thank you. Was Zorak Helga? I don't know if I said that right. It was hard to read, sorry about that. Was Zorak. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for listening. First
If
of
you
all,
want to pull that down, yeah. Thank you.
I was at the last meeting. I missed the first one, so the second one came to a surprise to me, what, is all being developed. I think, number one, I want to thank.
Can you tell you where you live? And
Yes, my
please?
name is Helga Wizorek. I live at 1188 Yosemite Road. I live right on the corner of Sunset and Yosemite. So, going forward, I want to thank Matt Rozek, is that your name?
Yes.
This morning, I did call him. This meeting came as a surprise. I wish you guys would have put signs out. I did call him. Obviously, he must have called the planning department. I appreciate that.
The signs are out now, right? They did get them.
They are up, yes. I came home this afternoon and I did see they were up. I am opposed to this road. I've lived here 25 years. My husband and my family has made our home here, and I love Oconomowoc. And I just feel like we have 2 inlets already coming into our subdivision. We have an entrance. We have a lot of speeders. I know that was a big concern at the last presentation that we did have. They race down Yosemite. I feel like if they come off Lake Bluff, if this road is extended, they're going to take a right and they are just going to whip down our road. At least I feel like if they come up Yosemite and Valley, they do come to a running stop, but the speed isn't there. The other thing is, it would have been nice if you guys, whoever did this committee, would have sent out a letter to let our community know it was a last-minute thing. We're all like trying to email, call neighbors. Everyone has, other agendas and other activities that they are going to. It'd be nice to have a little bit of notice. There's many of us that are not on social media. The wildlife, there's also wildlife. I took my dog for a walk 3-4 weeks ago, and it was nice out. There was deer there. There was turkeys gobbling. I mean, I feel like Oconomowoc is taking the community and just keep developing and developing. And I did not move into a community and build my everlasting home now that I want to stay in, and to have all this traffic. Now, I know it was brought up with the ambulance and timing. I get that, but there's so many other inlets. And yes, time, I work healthcare. I've been in healthcare for over 30 years. I understand life is precious. Just my thoughts,
Great.
and I'd appreciate it.
The alderman in your district wanted to make a question, so we're going to allow that one time.
Excuse me?
Alderman Rozak?
Allowed that in the past.
Yeah.
What?
but I'm-
You've not allowed that in the past.
I have not. I'm just trying to, we don't have very many cards, and I thought, I wanted to give them an opportunity. So you may not like it, but that's too bad.
You can choose.
I think it would add to actually help us make a decision. I don't know what the problem, I could ask for that one, Grace. So as I think about that neighborhood, and if I owned your home, you probably stand to gain in the fact that you'll have less traffic going by you, because a lot of people go through your neighborhood and either take a right at Sunset or come into the neighborhood through that. So do you, I guess do you think you'll see a decrease in traffic there, or do you?
From the previous 2 inlets?
Because Sunset will no longer be used as a passageway through the.
Oh, I think it'll still be
It'll
used
still be,
also.
okay.
I really do, yeah. But I think once the other stretch is opened, and we have so many speeders that go down Yosemite.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen the police department there after the last meeting, I did see several policemen driving and, sitting. But no, I honestly think, because they gain a lot of speed just coming down the street, once that other Lake Bluff is opened, they are just gonna speed down there.
Okay, we're going to have
Okay.
to wrap it up
Thank
now,
you.
Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have an Evan Farsi. Furry, I'm sorry, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Evan Faree. I'm at 489 Lake Bluff Drive, across from my neighbor, Justin, that just spoke earlier. I just wanted to bring up that during the previous 2 meetings that we've had, this whole project has just felt really strangely planned and kind of scuttled. Namely, the review of the plans that existed were for a brand-new road to be constructed with road may flood signs. That's just a very strange way to go about constructing a plan, to plan for it to fail. I don't, and when asked in the last meeting whether or not that was a sign that the engineer had felt was appropriate at other installations in this area, he said it was not. So I just wanted to draw, again, that is a very strange choice to build a road that you plan to flood. And then the second thing was the lack of communication of the signage from the rec trail to the sidewalk was a really surprising omission. I just can't understand how it was reasonable to expect 8, 9, 10-year-olds to know where to ride their bikes on the road or on the sidewalk or on the rec trail. And I just was really surprised that those were included in the original plan that wasn't very well thought out. Additionally, the crossing that was planned was in an extraordinarily strange place. It just showed that there was not a lot of understanding of the geography that you guys were intending to change. And I'm also concerned about the induction of increased traffic onto Lake Bluff Drive because of Nature Hill Middle School and the traffic that will be coming from 67 to the middle school, especially in an environment where our public schools are relying on a privatized bus system that doesn't respond to a school board. They can choose to drive their buses on the roads that they choose to drive their buses on, regardless of the democratic inputs of the folks here in the town. And I'm very concerned that the road conditions that are on display directly in front of the middle school will immediately be on display in Lake Bluff Drive because, as I asked at the last meeting, there is no construction difference between Lake Bluff Drive and Z, which is already demolished in front of the middle school. So there's a lot of pieces there. I'll leave it there. I appreciate the time.
No, thank you, and thank you for coming to the past open sessions. Appreciate it. Let's move on to Rachel Wojcik. I'm sorry, Rachel. Wow. A lot of letters. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at that.
Yeah, I live at 691 Lake Bluff Drive, so across from the pumping station. But I guess I was at 2 meetings ago, which I didn't know about this one until today, and my husband saw the sign. I don't know, I wish that would have been more apparent for us, but I actually reached out to you in particular about the overdevelopment of our town, and that I did move here about 4.5 years ago. And it feels like this is becoming Brookfield, and I know a lot of my friends with little kids can agree, and it makes it really distasteful. And I used to live out west in Nevada, and coming here, I felt kind of like I had a little taste of nature, but I feel like it's kind of getting lost. And not only the displacement of the animals and the destruction of the ecosystem, but also the increased traffic. I have 2 little kids. I know a lot of people have little kids, but I'm not in favor of it, obviously. I don't feel like there's a choice. It just is what it is. I guess I've just showed up and spoke my opinion, but anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other comments from anybody in the audience? It could be on the issues just discussed or anything else facing you either on the agenda or anything in the community. Sir? You'll have to come up to the microphone. You have to fill out a blue card. You can fill out the blue card afterwards, but if you'd introduce yourself and your address, and then go for it.
I'm Robert Paddock from 1181 Yosemite, and the traffic now down that road is pretty intense at times, and people do speed quite a bit, and there are an awful lot of kids. They're skateboarding, riding bikes, little kids riding out onto that road, and I believe that if you put in that extension, it's going to complicate that problem quite a bit. And I'm just afraid of the safety of the kids in the area, because eventually something bad is going to happen. And we try to minimize that as best as we can. And there's alternatives rather than that road. And as the other gentleman said, from an environmental standard and flooding, that could cost the city quite a bit of money in the future too, if it starts failing with heavy traffic.
Thank you. If you could take a blue card, sir, and just fill it out. Yeah, that way we have it for the public record. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And this is one of the first items on the agenda, are fairly close. And so hopefully our folks and staff will also take some of your comments and maybe answer some of those questions for you as well. So at this time, I would like to move forward to see no further public comments. I'd like to entertain a motion for a consent agenda items 6A, B, and C.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to our committee reports. We're going to start right off with the Public Services Department. Consider act on Resolution 26-R336, accepting Lake Bluff Drive extension construction bids. So Jason, you've heard of several of the open comments. If you can try to address as many of those issues as possible, from the environmental impact to some of the plans, and especially I think the council, and I know I have heard loud and clear the concerns for public safety for the kids. And I think that we all want to make sure, and we've worked hard with both Chief Pfister and Chief Bowen, who are both here in the audience. And so if we need to bring them up, council, or you want to bring up an individual person, this is a major project. Please let me know, and we'll make sure that we provide that for you. Mr. Herzog.
All right, great, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm just going to back up a little bit because I want to kind of lay some of the reasons on why we are here today and how we got here. This is definitely a long-term plan project. We've been discussing this for some years. This has been inside of our strategic plan for almost 2 decades now. This has been the goals for the city, trying to work through some of these things and challenges in there. I've presented it all the years that I've been here. Each year we go through a process that displays some of the large projects in front of the council meeting here. And Lake Bluff Drive extension, with a number of other ones, is listed as one of our objectives in completing throughout the year. We've laid this out for the last 3 years that I've been here. Prior to that, since 2019 at least, it's been included in that style. And tried to work with different groups throughout those processes, designers, and recently we moved forward with that process in that cycle and proposed a design, and it came forward to this council for the approval of that, to move forward with the project, engage the DNR, getting permitting and everything that was necessary for this project. So there's been a lot of work behind the scenes with that type of work inside of that. The design itself, we've kind of talked about some of the criteria in which we did. This is through a wetland area. In fact, our designers are here today if we needed to go into further detail. Many of our streets are incorporated into certain design levels when it relates to storms and storm levels. So it's not uncommon for a street to flood in the 100-year that's being suggested on this one. We had many of streets through our August rain event that did see backup, catch basins and whatnot were up and into the road. So we definitely considered a lot of those elements, as this is a very sensitive area. The road itself was even narrowed, and to reduce the footprint in which it was impacting these wetlands. A lot of those types of standards and design components were a part of this project. There are deeper details into something that we would consider, but I wanted to bring those up, that there are a variety of different things that we've considered in the design objectives of this project. Traffic is for sure one of them, so we did a traffic impact study a couple of years ago, kind of shared the results of that. Yes, we are seeing a difference in the traffic. It's actually a redistributed traffic that it's not an increased amount per se, it's more of a redistribution, and that's the idea when we talk about connectivity. We've got better response times, we've got different alternatives. Those are things that are very common into layouts and when we're putting together subdivisions and cities. In fact, if you step back from the map, you can see that many cities are laid out so that there are north-south corridors, there are east-west corridors. The city of Oconomowoc has a north and south one, almost every half mile to a mile. We've got Highway 67, we got Highway P, and if you're coming to the west, you'll see Lapham Street, you see North Lake Road. Those are the north-south ones. Our east-west ones, we have Lisbon Road. The next one is 2 miles to the north, Highway K. That's not in the city. It, in fact, doesn't even connect to the bypass. So the idea of connecting Lake Bluff Drive makes sense in an engineering standpoint, a planner standpoint, and trying to provide that network. So that is one of the reasons we've listed into our long-term comprehensive plan that shows some of this stuff. In fact, we showed it on our official map that was approved by this body back in 2022. So we advanced some of those projects like normal. This one was designed this past fall, laid out, demonstrated, and explained. We bid it out this month and received bids back. You can see them in your packet. We got good bids. The estimate was roughly 1.6 million. We saw our low bidder, Musson Brothers, at 1.25, which is a very, very good price for this work. And there's some details of the components in which that's being brought up in there. I also included some of the funding in this. It's kind of a double component. We collect as a city on every new construction an impact fee devoted towards transportation improvements. This is a very common method. This was set up with Lake Bluff Drive in mind. These funds were collected in the past and are now being applied or suggested to be applied towards this project. There is even about $450,000 that was used at the sale of the properties along Crystal Lake on the north side of Lake Bluff Drive some years ago when the city was given those lands and the city sold those off as developable lots. And so those are some of the details on the funding. This is not a tax levy funded project. This is a completely supported project through your impact fee fund. So with those details, I'm happy to kind of address anything else, but those are some of the things that we have. We've worked with the neighborhood there on listening to some of the concerns along the existing pieces of Lake Bluff Drive. Put together a couple exhibits that show some of those thoughts of new crosswalks, an edge line along the driving lane that can help kind of, I don't know, it tends to slow traffic down or at least perceive that. We do it on some of our other streets. It's a very subconscious thing that we can implement into that neighborhood. Reviewed a number of safety things with our chief here. So I think there's a lot of new improvements that we can incorporate this summer with our annual projects that we have funds for. I think that's a nice improvement. We can continue to review the improvements along Lake Bluff Drive, whether it's stop signs. There's an optional movement of the speed table from inside the design area. And I'll be honest, a lot of those speed tables are designed so that they are laid out in mid-block crossings, not intersections. That's why it's being proposed inside of this project. It's more of a mid-block crossing. But there is alternatives. We're looking at, options if it's closer to Victoria, if that makes a little bit of sense in how that lays out drainage-wise, as you tend to increase some of the curb sections in that area. So I definitely feel like there's options on some of those types of things that would help support some of the more pedestrian crossings.
Jason, one thing I don't know if you have easy access to, I think, so the audience knows, and the council got this in their packets. They heard you loud and clear about the safety issues, and especially for kids and bikes, and so they've put up some plans for not the extension part, which is part of today's agenda, but also how it affects the other areas. Could you access that for us? So it would be nice for the community to see that.
Oh, you found it? Good. That's why I gave you the jump drive, Mark.
So I think
So,
what would,
yeah,
what would help this group, it'd be a nice follow-up from the two
Put a
listening
draft of this
sessions.
together. So a couple things. I mentioned this in our previous meetings with groups that often help on projects like this is we build a web page devoted towards this project. So there's a lot of details that I've shared out on our city webpage. You can go there and you can look for the details of this project and some of our other ones. In fact, you can see our future streets that we'll be working on. Obviously, they're drafts, but we try to share that out. We're working on a more interactive piece of software, links inside of these things that will give more project details. So we're constantly like updating and improving our method in which we notify things. I often end with a lot of things at these projects on our website, options to sign up, what we call Notify Me. There are small things that you can just sign up for, projects, and we distribute the information back to individuals, not the opposite way. So it's been very effective on other projects that we've used, and I'll mainly just use an example like a construction update. We often have weekly meetings with the contractor. This helps us share that information back, what may or may not be going on, and people get a text or an email or something like that. So those are types of information that we can share back. If you're not a social media person, we try to connect in different ways. So always advancing that. I admit we may not be perfect at it, but every year I try to improve on it.
If you could maybe just go through and just, off of this image, just walk through where the proposed crosswalks are. I think that's probably of significant importance to the people here in the audience.
Okay, so I'll start in the bottom left. I'm going to go from the dead end on Lake Bluff Drive. There's a gray line on each side of this. This would be that white pavement marking that we will add the length of the project. Crosswalks, obviously, this would be the option. Either we'll do a tabletop speed table in this area. I'm still trying to narrow up the correct spot. I have to look for the storm sewer and try to build this in there, avoid driveways and whatnot. That's why I say intersections are not the greatest, but there's been a lot of interest of trying to get it here. Right now, the speed table is designed on this area, which is away from intersections. So I get that, people come from the south. I totally understand that. And, you want to try to get this in there. I'm just telling you why it was over here to begin with. The speed table can go over here. We can look at how to build that. If that doesn't go there, then we would look at adding a crosswalk here. So either or, not both. And then if you kind of go to the next one, Blue Dahlia, this again would try to get another crosswalk. These are marked with our pavement markings like standard that we do throughout the city. Then if you kind of keep going to the east, we'll jump back up to the top left and continue with the edge line throughout the neighborhood and another crossing at Lily. And this is where the sidewalk stops dually. So this makes sense to kind of bring them to the north side and get all the way to Lapham Street where we have a trail and the school. So that's kind of the improvements we can do right now. First glance, I feel like that'll help some of the area with the new traffic that's been going on. Again, the new traffic is roughly about 600 to 700 cars per day currently. It's anticipated to basically double. This is real similar to Thackeray Trail, even less projected, but I'll just consider it similar to Thackeray Trail, if that gives you any perspective.
What's similar to Thackeray Trail?
Volumes.
All the volumes of cars, okay.
chief to talk about stuff.
Yeah, so, Council, I'm just going to leave it open for you for discussions on this action item. We also have Chief Pfister and Chief Bowen here, so if you have any questions with regarding public safety, let's leave this image up. Jason, thanks for all your hard work.
I have one question for
These
Jason.
guys, yeah, these guys got together right after the last listening session at the police department and have been working hard to try to come up with some different options. And that's what, for the audience, that's what you're seeing today. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Question for Jason. Okay, so I do like the idea of potentially moving the tabletop pedestrian crossing. However, have we considered a crosswalk at Lake Bluff and Yosemite? We've got all these other ones.
We can
This
we can
seems-
look. The struggle is there's a double driveway on this side, so we have to position it correctly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yep, we can definitely look at that.
Okay.
But that was the reason I didn't show it right away or here.
okay, thank you.
And if we put a tabletop over here or a crossing on this, or maybe the idea is, the crossing here, no crossing here, and kind of go intersection by intersection.
Say, Chief, Justin Reynolds was the first speaker. He requested a three-way stop at Blue Dahlia, I believe it was. Yeah, Blue Dahlia and Lake Bluff Drive. We've had conversations regarding stop signs through this area, so do you just want to explain to everybody what our thought process is for those?
Yeah, we want to build the road, then see what traffic load is there, figure out exactly where the best place. Do we need a stop sign? What's the correct location for that stop sign? Is it a three-way stop? And going forward with that. I don't want to put a stop sign at every crossroad. That just increases people, trying to rush between stop signs. It's shown that, all the studies have shown that. So basically, we want to get the road made, review it, and then look at where we would need any stop signs in the location.
But you're okay, Chief, with moving forward with what's laid out here in some form to put some additional crosswalks in right away?
Correct, yeah, we worked with Jason on that, from the last public meeting, that was a great concern. So we looked at moving that tabletop over and then putting in the additional crosswalks for safety as well.
Because I think the other, if you're listening, either on the video or here in the audience, I think we heard loud and clear, we want to be as proactive as we can, not just reactive, and there's a balance to that. And I think that's what you're describing, Chief. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of the hard thing to do with regard to stop signs and things like that, and I understand that. Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, quick question about the stop signs. What I've heard people want to do is either put
Can you talk more in the microphone, please, Matt?
What I've heard people want to do is either put more of them in Blue Dahlia, Yosemite, or Victoria. And I understand thinking about putting in the road first and looking at it, but why not take a safety proactive approach right away and just get stop signs in one of those spots? I mean, we've heard people up here say that Yosemite is like a raceway. We've got to have some data, at least on stops in that area to just put something in.
I really want to evaluate it. I hate to put a stop sign in the wrong place, and then we got to take it out and move it when people get used to a stop sign in a certain place. I think going through this, is it one stop sign? It could be two, I'm not sure exactly which street it needs to be on.
What do we do at Thackeray Trail? We have two signs along Thackeray?
We have one stop.
One.
Is that on Emerson?
No, it's over by
Right
the high
across
school.
from the
Right by the
Yeah.
high school.
high school
By
and
the high school.
play area. There's just one.
And that didn't go up right away.
The logic behind,
That's where I'm going. Is we
right,
put
the
up
logic behind stop
There's a
signs.
difference.
Go on.
To answer your question, Alderman Rozak, about Thackeray Trail, that's the area that right across on the north side of Thackeray Trail is the entrance, the pedestrian entrance up into the high school.
Yep.
And so we knew that that was going to be a major school crossing right away. And with the street being freshly extended, we thought it'd be important that if we were going to have a stop sign there, to put that in right away. But it was because of that whole subdivision technically on the south side of Thackeray Trail would get down to that crossing and then cross to get up into the school. So we knew that it was going to be a significant crossing.
So if I lived on Lake Bluff Drive and hearing the debates and seeing all the debates so far, and I lived on Lake Bluff Drive and I saw this thing getting connected and no stop signs being along that entire strip, from Z and Lapham all the way over, no stop signs, I'm thinking this will become a raceway, and I understand, and so my concern is not where it's right now, but something to stop that now, and then maybe evaluating later on whether we put a second one in or move it. But if we don't put one in right away and we evaluate it for whatever period of time, and I'm saying I think you guys can do a good job evaluating it, but you look at that long strip without a stop sign in there with all of these side roads and roads crossing through, and with folks saying Yosemite's already a raceway, I don't see why we don't try to get something in now. Try to evaluate what we've got now, take a shot at it. How hard is it to move a stop sign? It can't be that hard.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
The whole logic behind stop signs, though, the more stop signs we put in, the faster traffic goes on the road. Every study has shown that, because the perception is, I'm stopping at a stop sign, then I'm going to the next stop sign, I'm losing time, is what it is. So now people drive faster between stop signs because they think they're gonna be, it's gonna cause them to be later, going places. So that's the standard, that every study has shown. So I really want to evaluate this to see where the best place this stop sign should be.
Well,
So-
and I'm not trying to be argumentative with you, Chief, but
No.
if what you're saying is correct, that the stop signs make people move fast, wherever you put a stop sign in the future, they will move faster between the stop signs, right? If that logic is true.
Potentially.
Okay.
But I'm saying multiple stop signs will greatly increase it, so. I get what you're saying.
Right, I'm not saying put up multiple stop signs. I'm saying somewhere right now, what I'm hearing from the folks that have communicated with me is a stop sign somewhere, at least to start, somewhere along that whole strip. We've talked about moving the tabletop, which I think probably makes sense. We've talked about adding a crosswalks, that makes a lot of sense. Doing something else with another stop sign somewhere, at least initially, to me, makes some sense. And we can evaluate it, change it if we think people are really going fast between Lapham and Blue Dahlia.
Right.
We need to move it to Yosemite, then we do that. And get
So
feedback
Chief,
from the folks.
I'm going to interrupt Matt if that's all right.
Yeah.
One of the things, I guess what I would like to know, and if I lived on this road, we talk about, okay, we're going to do an analysis and try to decide where a stop sign may or may not go. Tell me what that is and how long that takes. Because if you say, you know what, we're going to do a study after this is up in this period of time, and we're going to be able to make a good judgment of what we need to do. Is that 5 years down the road? I'm being facetious.
No.
You know that. But if I were a resident there, I would want to know, okay, great, you're going to do this analysis, but government works slow, and you guys don't always get things done. And so I would want to have some sort of definition, if I lived there, that I would feel comfortable that it got done in an efficient manner, because I understand your component about the stop signs, and I respect all the research behind it. We all think that just adding more makes more sense. That makes common sense, but it doesn't follow the research. But can you give us a timeline and tell us what that means? I think that would help us all.
Yeah. Once the road is open, what we would do is we evaluate how much traffic is on that road. We put up speed boards that get the speed, count the number of vehicles on the road, take that data. I also have multiple officers that are trained on crosswalk safety. We send them up there to see the times of the day when most pedestrians are crossing, kids for school release and going in and out, to see where are they really crossing in these new crosswalks, because that makes a difference as well where I want to put a stop sign. So that all usually would happen within a month to 2 months at the most.
Okay. So my question, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Yeah.
My common sense tells me as a diagnostician that I would say, okay, let's just start doing one of those studies now, then let's do one after it's built, and then let's look at the comparison, look at the gaps, and say, okay, this is our best option. 2 months isn't that long. 6 months to a year, then I don't think we're being proactive enough if something needs to be done. Is it something that we could potentially say, let's start looking at it now before any construction happens at all? That gives us a baseline, and then we go from there. Would that bring additional value to your decision-making process, because you are the final say as to whether a stop sign goes in, not us.
No, it would not.
It would not.
I have data from that road. We need to see how much traffic is on that road. I mean, I know how much data is there now. I know what the studies say, the traffic impact, everything's gonna be, and it says it'll be another 600, 700 vehicles on that roadway. Do I believe a stop sign is probably gonna go in on that road? Yeah, probably. That's my gut feeling, and I'll tell you that. But the exact location, I mean, it might not be where most people think, oh, I want it in front of my house. I want the stop sign right here, for, different reasons. So that's why I truly want to pull this information. And that's what my officers are trained to do, these studies and to get the information and, make the recommendations, of where stop signs need to be.
That helps. I would still do it twice, do a comparison, but
Sure.
that's my world, not yours.
Yep. So,
Alderman Spiegelberg, do you?
No, my question, you asked the question, my question was on how long it would take to evaluate, and then also some temporary measures before or during that time, as far as the My Speed signs and any other, like, slow down, pedestrian, whatever.
yeah, I mean, we'll do it pretty much just like we did Thackeray Trail when that opened. We had the speed boards out there, we had the signs out there. It becomes an extra patrol for my officers. They'll be sitting out there a lot, we'll be, doing a lot of different studies and collecting data on it. And that's how we got to where we are in Thackeray Trail right now as well.
Okay, so suffice it to say that there will actually be more attention as far as safety with your officers out there in that interim period, which I
Correct.
think is potentially a comfort to the residents in the neighborhood as well.
Correct, and we're not gonna leave the area if we think, oh, hey, this is unsafe for, kids crossing, the road or anything of that nature. We're gonna, evaluate that, and it may mean, like I said, 2 stop signs in strategic locations that help out, so.
Is there anything that we can do now? Because I keep hearing everybody's
No.
speeding, but to be very candid, you talk to anybody on any road, and they say everybody's going too fast on their own roads. So that's not to lessen the importance of how you folks feel on Lake Bluff at all. But, you have a group of people that have come out here that have a concern. Is it something when the weather is correct and our speed boards work at that appropriate temperature, could we pop up a speed board before this even starts?
Oh, they will be back out there, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we've collected some data, we'll put them back out there. We'll probably have some up there during the construction phase as well, watching, traffic, going, where's it going and how fast is it going as well. So there will be ongoing, measures taken, starting as soon as, the road is, they're gonna start working on it as well, so.
I think the other question that was, oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Ellis.
Chief, I have a question for you. I guess I'll ask the question more so than make a statement. If an accident is gonna happen, does it happen in the middle of the block? Does it happen at a crosswalk or an intersection, more so?
Wow. I don't think, I can't determine that. I mean, if you're asking in general in
General.
neighborhoods, we have very few crashes. I mean, we have Thackeray Trail might be 1 or 2, that happened, single vehicle, like that. But, I mean, all the other major roads, Lisbon, this and that, we don't get a lot of accidents over there.
My question, once again, is if there's going to be any type of an accident, generally, does it happen in the middle of the block, at a crosswalk, or at an intersection, more so than any other time?
You're asking citywide, it is intersection.
Okay. With that understanding, let me ask you a question. Yosemite and Lake Bluff, Victoria and Lake Bluff, are these intersections?
Yeah.
So can I state that the possibility of there being an accident is greater than if it's in the middle of the street, middle of the block, at those intersections?
Then you have to get technical in what intersection. It's not a four-way intersection.
Mhm.
They happen at four-way intersections the most.
Okay.
Now we're
I'm
talking
asking.
a single road,
Right.
you know, accident there. If you're asking, does a stop sign prevent those accidents? No.
Really?
Yep. Does it really, people roll through stop signs. Stop sign isn't some magic tool
Okay,
out there.
then let me ask you another question. Can it prevent less accidents at intersections with there being some sort of stop sign?
Absolutely.
Understanding that at this point, there are no stop signs.
Correct.
And this road is open. And if it's at 25, most people are going to be doing 35, if not 40. Would it not make sense to temporarily put stop signs at those corners only for the sole purpose of, I understand your point. Oh my goodness, I'm late. I need to make it up. But if you look at the average speed of that individual over that length, it's actually slower than it would be if there was no barrier, no stop signs.
That is not correct. The studies from DOT has shown that they actually go more at a medium speed with no stop signs, and that the traffic actually goes faster between the stop signs. Their studies have consistently shown that.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
I know this isn't quite the conversation with the stop signs, but just out of curiosity, I know on Blue Dahlia, if you're coming onto Lake Bluff, whether or not you're going right or left, there is a stop sign on Blue Dahlia for that traffic. Is
Correct.
there one for Victoria, Yosemite, Crystal Lake, Lily, or Christopher Court?
I don't think there is on Lily, Victoria, not
I
Plaza.
think there is on Yosemite.
Is there one there? Yeah. Which, and I just want to get across, I am not opposed to putting stop signs on this road. You know, I just want to make sure we get them in the right place. And I think we can do that within a short amount of time of the road being open and evaluating it properly.
So,
You done, Jennifer?
No, and just
You
one
look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, yeah, and just one, I guess just one statement, and, you know, things like this are always hard, because I know some of these houses have been here for a really long time. You know, you've lived on a quiet road, you've lived on a dead end, and that's hard, you know, to know that, you know, this traffic is, you know, potentially traffic is gonna go through, and I'm familiar with this neighborhood because my in-laws live on Blue Dahlia. And I remember when I first got married, the Lakewood Estates wasn't there. It was a big field. And when that neighborhood went in, and this was obviously long before I got involved in city government, I said to my father-in-law, you know, having been a Milwaukee girl moving out here, I'm like, wow, you must be really ticked off that you have a subdivision here now. And he said, no, I'm not. And I said, well, why not? And he goes, because when we bought this house, we knew the city plans. And that's just always, every decision we've ever made on council, that when, you know, people get upset about things, I always go back to that conversation where he was like, you know, am I bummed that I'm losing that field behind me? Yeah, but I knew when I bought the house that was the plan. So, you know, and no disrespect to the to the residents there, but when you bought your house and you had this dead-end road, you had to have known this was potentially gonna go through. Same thing on Thackeray Trail. One of the girls that my daughter grew up with, when that went through, we were talking about it. She goes, I knew when we bought our house 20 years ago, this was probably happening. So it's a hard decision to make. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, and I also was gonna ask the question about how long would it take to do the study, and 1 to 2 months, I would hope it wouldn't exceed like 3 for the sake of the residents.
Alderman Mulder.
Yeah, I guess I'm just agreeing with Jennifer. Thank you for that. But I think if we want good data and we want to put them in the right spot, if we put a stop sign up before we know where it exactly should go, we'll never get data, because the data will be subjected to that stop sign wherever we put it. So we will never know what the true traffic flow is or where the right stop sign will go, because we will have put it somewhere hoping we got it right, and we will never be able to determine if that was right or not. And any move we would make would be under the construct of having put it in the wrong place in the first time. So while I am entirely in favor of making safe intersections throughout this area and putting stop signs wherever they are needed, to do so prematurely without the data in order to save 2 months, I don't think is what's best for the citizens long-term. So I support you getting the data you need so we can make the right decision.
So I'm going to try to summarize what I think I'm hearing. Oh, go ahead.
So Chief, I think, where Jennifer brought up a point of where the side streets intersect with Lake Bluff, we don't know if all those intersections, if those side streets have stop signs. Is that correct?
Correct.
We wouldn't have an issue with stop signs going in there.
No, I have no issue with
It's
a stop
just
sign on all
where
of
they
those.
would
Correct.
belong along Lake Bluff Drive, but now that this is gonna become a through street, now it can make sense that those side streets coming up have a physical stop sign there. So we can do that.
Like all those side streets right now?
Sure.
Just Going into Lake Bluff?
Everything intersecting.
Why not? That'd be a good idea.
It's a good start.
Done.
That could be done proactively, too.
Yeah.
So to kind of summarize, Chief, what I'm hearing is that if this passes and goes forward this evening, then you're going to, as soon as this gets completed and we have traffic going through, there'll be a priority, because it'll be passed when I'm the mayor, that you'll have the priority, at least within a 2-month period, you'll be able to have a good analysis completed so that you can decide stop signs or no stop signs. And I would recommend to the future council and the future mayors that we make sure that once that's done, we ask Chief to come back within that 2-month period. Have a notice somehow so the people in Lake Bluff know, through your HOA, through your different people, a sandwich board, whatever seems to work the best. And then we come back and give a report and say, okay, here's what we did. We followed through on what we said we were going to do, and these are our recommendations moving forward. We can still do the proactive intersection stop signs. We can still do the proactive white lines on the sides. We can still do the proactive crosswalks and try to get that moving fairly quickly. And for those that are really worried about Nature Hill, there's a lot of proactive discussions right now between our public safety, our administrator, myself, and the school, because we know that that's an issue and we're trying to help. We're only a piece of that puzzle, and they've been very receptive and wonderful to work with. And we want to make sure that long-term that we have a good solution. Is that a fair summary, Chief?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes, it is, Mayor.
Well, I'm just trying to bring closure to this so you guys can either vote yes or no. Alderman Rozak, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a few general, Chief, I'm done. Thank you, unless anyone else has a question. Just a few general comments. These are tough votes for sure.
You can go to the microphone a little bit more, please, Matt.
I don't know what's going on with this, stuck on something here. These are tough votes for sure. We had a similar vote on Thackeray Trail. One of the most important things government can do is communicate and be transparent with what we're doing with the citizens that live there that are most directly impacted. My experience in Lake Bluff Drive is twofold. One, it seems like we as city government failed some of the folks. We had 2 meetings that were really, really close to this vote, and there were a lot of people that showed up with a lot of questions. That shouldn't happen again. I think we need to get better at getting that information out. One of the things I actually talked, I think, with Helga about on the phone was we send utility bills to all these folks.
We send tax bills to all these folks. Can we get a postcard out if there's a big project going in to the folks that are in with a half-mile radius? I actually think the Park and Rec Department's doing that right now with regard to one of the parks on the other side of town. They've sent out flyers or postcards to folks in there. Why don't we do that for these kind of projects? Because this is stuff you have to drive on every single day. So I think we need to look at how we get that information out. The sandwich board again today was a good example of that. Helga called me and said, hey, why aren't the boards out again to let people know? And we got those out. I appreciate the call and I appreciate our staff doing that. So that's our failing. It's our most important thing really that we do is communicate with our citizens, and I don't think that happened here. And I think we need to fix that. Second though part is the staff did a really good job, I think, in addressing some of the safety concerns that you all did raise. The stop sign issues, which we've discussed at length here for like an hour. The tabletop crossing, some of the other items, I think they've addressed most of those safety concerns, and I think we beat the stop sign thing to death here tonight, and we're looking at getting a stop sign. I don't want to necessarily add this to the motion, but my strong opinion is that a stop sign, at least one needs to go somewhere along Lake Bluff within 2 months of it being built, whatever. However that looks. It's too long of a road, and it will be too busy with the boulevard if we don't have people stop somewhere in there. And as long as the chief is going to look at that, I'm comfortable with them. I trust the police to do the right thing. You know, we had significant public meetings on Thackeray Trail before we even had a big plan in place. And I think we missed the ball with this one. But I think we can do better in the future. I think this is likely something that should ultimately go through for connectivity and for safety. The one thing we didn't really talk a lot about was the impact on fire. I don't need to call you up, Chief, but I was at the meeting where you talked about, I was actually at both meetings. The second meeting you talked at length about getting traffic there and if we have mutual aid from other areas or we have calls, having to drive all the way around to get that end in that corner could take up to 2 extra minutes. I think as part of being a strong public safety city, I think that's a big deal. Especially if we're getting fire trucks coming from Ashippun or Ixonia to help us in a structure fire. We need to have the ability to connect. It's not just for LaBelle, it's not just for the folks up there, it's for our citizens as well. So those are just some of my general comments. I'll cede the floor.
I think those are all great comments. I do want to rebut on just one comment, Matt, is I agree philosophically that it'd be good to put a stop sign. I don't disagree with that. But for a 2-month period, let's let the data show it, because let's put it in the right place. So I'm not in favor of adding that to a motion, but that's your call, guys. You can do that. But philosophically, I think, yeah, and I think that's going to happen. But how are you going to do all this analysis if you start putting up stop signs, which then affects traffic flow? Let's figure out over a 2-month period. If this was going to take 6 months, I would be all in favor of putting a stop sign in right away. But you're sure, Chief, it's going to take you less than 2 months. Can you do it less than 4 weeks? I'm just teasing you, just getting back.
Actually, Mayor, I didn't say to put it in the motion. I said I'm not going to put it in the
Oh, I thought you were going to put it in the
No,
motion, that's why I
No,
commented.
yeah. I
No,
said, that's
'cause
maybe when the
I agree
microphone
with the
wasn't
idea.
close enough. I said I wasn't going to put it in the motion because I
okay.
trust the chief to get that
Gotcha.
data and do it in the right spot.
I misunderstood, I stand corrected, because I feel the same way, but I want to give the professional that does this for a living the opportunity to do it where you have the best outcome long-term, as long as we don't have to wait too long. Karen?
I want to
Ms.
thank everybody
Spiegelberg.
from District 1 who came out and who contacted me. I appreciate all your input. These votes are very difficult from the standpoint that, you know, we have people on both sides of this. So we've had people reach out to us and say, we're wanting this extension. We've expected this for many years. And then we have other individuals like Rachel and her young kids who I understand are concerned about the safety there. However, it really finally, for me, came down to the safety as far as emergency response times. When our chief of police and chief of fire are telling us that the response time could increase from 45 seconds to almost 2 minutes, and it might be your house fire, it might be your child choking, or an emergency within your own neighborhood, it's a public safety issue. All that said, I hope that you know and hear tonight that we are listening to you as far as the safety implementing once this is extended. We've considered some new options that you guys have recommended to us. I love the idea of the platform on Victoria instead of Yosemite. I went out, I walked the whole area again the other day. So please continue to reach out to us on all of this. We are listening, Alderman Mulder and I for District 1. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Great discussion, great debate.
I do have one
Yeah,
other quick.
yeah, Matt.
The one thing that we kind of got missed in this whole debate so far is there actually is another connection there. It's to the town or village. But it's closed off.
Parkview.
Yeah. So there is another connection potentially in the future that could occur in that area. I would like our city staff on a moving forward basis, when we give recs or anything to the town in these areas, those roads need to connect. They need to connect roads. When Summit built next to my subdivision where I live, I had folks with the same concerns about the new traffic coming in, the new patterns. And I told those folks, like, those roads need to connect because it's a safety issue. And sure enough, when one of our roads went down, people were able to exit. So we can't let villages around us dictate what roads are going to connect into our city and what comes or goes. We got to fix some of these spots where they've just blocked off the road. It's completely nuts. And because Western Lake serves them, we can't get our trucks back there either to help them.
Yeah.
It's insane. Those roads need to open up for these folks, for us, and for everyone. So that's
So-
just my rant on that.
Well, that rant
road
is
connection
well appreciated because it's very, very true. What I can tell you guys as community members, as a council, is Mark has been working on that,
I
trying to
know.
get some of those things open right now. So this has been stuffing, but we're only half of the equation. And so I think that is a very, very important thing for public safety moving forward. Thank you for bringing that up. Other comments before a request for a motion? I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll move to approve Resolution 26-R3336.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Youngworth.
Aye.
Alderman Rosick.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
That passes forward, folks, so that you're aware. It was a unanimous vote. Don't get discouraged because you may not have gotten the end result that you wanted. Frankly, anybody that lives on a dead-end street would probably like to all keep it that way. Hopefully you understand the reason and the rationale based on the votes. And I really appreciate you all coming out. And thank you very much. You're welcome to stay for a further part of the meeting if you'd like. With that item, we're going to move on to our next item. Consider act on Resolution 26-R3337, cleaning services for municipal buildings. Mr. Herzog.
All right, thanks, Mayor, again. Switching gears, this is a contract for our cleaning services of the buildings, the 6 buildings that we maintain. Clean Line is the contractor. They've been doing our services for some years. And I've reached out to them and discussed kind of a longer-term contract with them so that we can engage and not have to re-up their work every year. Inside your packets is a 5-year agreement with the prices that they've been working with since 2021. There's a 3% increase thereafter per year. In total, it's about $43,000 that we pay annually to clean all of the buildings.
Questions or comments from council?
Motion to approve as presented.
Any further questions or
Oh,
comments?
hold on, one question. Were we going to remove the 10%? Oh, no, sorry, that
that's
was a
on the
different.
next item.
Yep, sorry.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg stepped out. Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Alderman Youngworth.
Aye.
Alderman Rosick.
Aye.
Alderman Altman Cloth.
Aye.
On to our next item. Consider an act on Resolution 26-R3335, Western Sanitary Sewer Hydraulic Analysis. Tim?
Thank you. Yeah, earlier this evening, we heard the presentation on the Western Sanitary Sewer Study. That study did have project limits that we established in advance. And what it did not include is a section of pipe that would go from those project limits, which is just east of the bridge at Concord. And this would be a hydraulic analysis from that point to ensure that we have capacity in our pipes from that point back to the treatment plant. And we think this certainly the responsible thing to do as we plan for the future in that area. Just some highlights of that study. We did receive a proposal from Rupert Milkie for this work. Some of the highlights were a review of a previous hydraulic study done in the city in 2000. We'd also be looking to integrate that hydraulic work with the recently completed Western Sanitary Study. And additionally, we would be working with a third party to do a flow study analysis where we would be putting in area velocity meters into the lines to ensure that the data is correct and valid. And so the total cost for the proposal as presented was $17,000. There is an additional fee from a third party of $5,500 for that work. We did have an earlier discussion in Utility Committee in regard to the 10%. And so the motion to approve the resolution 26R3335 does currently include that 10%, but I know there's a discussion and may impact the motion by the council.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up for discussion.
Yeah.
Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Tim. Good presentation. This actually came to me from a constituent a while ago about the continued 10% contingency on top of everything. And I thought this would be a good test case. We've got a known quantity of what they're supposed to do. There should be no reason for an additional contingency on this project. Rupert Milkie is very well familiar with our systems. They're our city engineer. I would encourage the council moving forward on these projects to start at least piecemealing, getting rid of these 10% contingencies. I mean, if someone gives us a number and someone gives us an estimate, especially at something like this or in other projects where there's more certainty, I'd like to see us get rid of that contingency or lower it potentially in the future. And that might be where we start looking at it as lowering it and then trying to get rid of it. In a project like this where we gave them the parameters, we know exactly what they're doing, I think we should get rid of them. So I'll make the motion to approve the resolution as presented, removing the 10% contingency.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Alderman Youngworth.
Aye.
Alderman Rosick.
Aye.
Alderman Oatman Cloth.
Aye.
Just a quick comment on that. Having that 10% contingency has both pros and cons, but I also think things can be written, and this is for future council and future mayors. Why not have not to exceed contracts? And then that will eliminate some of it. And again, that would probably have to be a pick and choose, but they have to give you a bid not to exceed. And that may help. That's done a lot in the private sector. Also, incentives are given for finishing early. Penalties are given for finishing late. So as you start looking at that, if that's something this council or a new alderman are going to look at, that might be something to consider investigating after April 7th.
Mayor, our contracts are not to exceed, I believe. But we've been giving them for a while this 10% contingency. So they're supposed to be a not to exceed, but giving staff authority to bump.
Well,
over.
there's supposed to be non to exceed, and there's enforcing a non to
Right.
exceed.
Well, this one says total project shall not exceed 24,200. That's in the resolution.
And I think it's a good test case, but what happens is we don't always enforce that.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So
Yeah,
we can have the verbiage, guys, but unless we put some meat and potatoes to that, or you put incentives or penalties related to the completion, like we typically do in the private sector, that's why we have contingencies. Now, from the city's perspective, when you're looking at things that change, when are not included in RFP or things happen, It's much easier on larger projects to have some contingency, so you're not bringing every little stinking thing back to the council. So when you do these in the future, you've really got to kind of pick and choose. That's just food for thought, not an agenda item. I probably shouldn't have brought it up. But I think it's a good comment because it was brought up on the last vote. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Is it common for municipalities to have the 10%? Is there, you know, like if we bring this back to 2.5 or 5 or whatever? Mark would probably be the answer for that one.
So, you know, there's different projects, you know, the area that you'd look more for something on this is when you're into the construction aspects of things, because you design everything you want, you go out and you put a bucket in the street and something changes. And so when we went to where it was, you know, worded in the documents for a not to exceed number, they allowed, the discussion was to allow a contingency, which would allow staff, because little things come up here and there, like the mayor said, that way you're not coming back every time. Now, there's things that Alderman Rozak had made some comments earlier at Utility Committee on the design side of projects seem to come in very well. Those probably don't need it or as much. And that's also something where you don't have a crew out there at $1,800 an hour stopped waiting for an answer when you're in the design. So those are areas that we can look at that. I agree with that. We just got to look at how we handle construction. And so we do have the contingency. I made a note to be bringing back the accounting from our last major projects to see where we're at on that, because anything over and above that contingency number, we have to come back to the Common Council for approval of that. We've come back a few times, but we haven't come back on every project. So that means that, you know, we were within that 10% contingency on those.
But is that common for municipalities to have the 10%? Or are there examples that we can look at that it's smaller than that?
It varies.
Okay.
Yeah, it varies. I've looked
looking
at a
into.
few,
Might be worth
and they've been lower, they've been higher. I don't know if, Tim, do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it varies a little bit. And I just wanted to share one experience. So a recent smaller project that we did, and the contingency did come up as a question. And we did, it was for an HVAC replacement of a unit. And as part of that discussion, contingency was brought up. So I wanted to share that I appreciate that we were allowed to use it. That's a renovation of an old piece of equipment. We ended up, as part of that, you know, we purchased the unit, but you know, there's a project limits, but what we found is the downstream coil was bad, which cost us another 14, you know, and then the conduit was bad. So in construction, especially renovations, it's very nice to have that so we can move fluidly. But I agree that, you know, if there's, in certain other regards, it's good to scrutinize. But in that case, I appreciated having that 10% contingency.
What I think it's hard too, our staff does a great job at really writing the RFPs to include everything. Sometimes there's stuff that's missed, sometimes there are things that aren't thought of. That's also how the contingency works, but if that number is something that's tolerable, I think it can be useful. If it's excessive, then it shouldn't be there. So, great. Thank you for that little sidebar, I appreciate it. Okay, on to our next, on to some new business. Consider act on the ordinance 26-01120, amending section 20.012, Common Council start time. It's a first reading. Council, this is a first reading. You have the opportunity to also waive that if you want. I put this in for what I've experienced over the last 6 years. We have elections, whether they're national, state, or local elections, where it's always going to land on a Tuesday night. And Mark and I talked about it, and I asked him to put it on the council for this floor because if we shift that so it starts at 5 o'clock, that gives a lot more flexibility, either people that are running, people that are involved in other campaigns. The council always has the ability to cancel a meeting in the future, but when you do agendas, sometimes you only know about 10 days before the meeting what's going to be on the agenda, because certain parts of the agenda have to be put together for your packets, as well as we have to get the information. So whatever you do with this is completely up to you guys. I just think it's a good idea because it gives a little bit more flexibility on on those voting nights. So these would be for any of the first Tuesdays of the month in the spring and the fall election. Because I've heard it for 6 years from different people. I thought it was a good idea. I'm opening it up for discussion. Do whatever you guys feel comfortable with. Alderman Mulder.
Gina, how do you feel about this? Is that would help you to get the night moving more quickly by being done earlier?
I think if this is something council considers and passes tonight, I would like to know, we're going to be looking at a different staff member subbing in for me. So what that allows me to do is be more present in the activities of the election, especially at, critical times towards the end of the evening. So it would work perfectly for us.
We think it's actually good for voter integrity, for sure. Alderman Altman-Cloth.
This was something that actually I brought up last February, knowing that we were going into a big presidential election, in some conversations with the clerk's office. And at that time, I was told that the clerk, now granted, we have a new clerk, that at that time, that it wasn't a burden on the clerk's office, and keeping it as is was not a problem.
Yeah, and that's why we reinvestigated, because I heard you loud and clear. I understood your position at that point in time. And what we were trying to do is do something we thought was best for everybody. And so it has changed. You're correct. Alderman Spiegelberg.
I'd kind of like to hear how everybody feels about it. The only person I talked to ahead was Kevin reached out to me and said 5 is not good for him. What if it was like 5:30? Would that be better for you?
Can you adjust your schedule once or twice a year?
Yeah, it'd just be a couple times a year.
I still do not see the purpose in why it needs to be changed. See, whether it's at 5 o'clock, or it's at 7:30, or heck, 6 o'clock, it should not have that much of a bearing on the election process. We're here to do a specific job. Whether we're running for office at that time or we're not, we're here to do that. Now, me personally, 5 o'clock, 5:30, look at people. It's hard enough for me to get here at 6. I just don't see why it's that important. I don't know if there's anything anybody can say to change my mind.
So I will make one comment. If we can have our key city clerk focused on elections rather than coming to run a council meeting, I think that's a good thing.
So why do we not just not have the council meeting?
You have that option every time, but what you don't want to do, and I would not recommend, is say, no, there'll be no meetings on these nights or change the day, because we looked into all of those options as well. Because every time you put agendas together, there's so many changes. And so we can have things that come that are really time sensitive. And I think if we have said we're going to meet twice a month, we need to do that. And the mayor, the future mayor, because this won't take effect, I don't know, would this take effect then? And if you waive this reading, yeah. You have to decide if you want it to take effect in April. It's up to you guys. But what you want as a mayor is you want the ability to be flexible with that, because all of a sudden, something that's time sensitive, it could be to one resident who's trying to get something accomplished, and they need council approval. Now, if you watch what I've done for this last 6 years, anytime there's an election, I tell staff I want this to be the shortest meeting ever, if possible. And that's what I try to do. But it doesn't always happen. And so that would be the reasoning. And frankly, I wanted to have the discussion because we've had people bring it up. And I think it somewhat needs to be put to bed. These guys need to know if they're running for this office. To me, it seems like a good idea, but I'm not married to any of this because it actually won't affect me, yeah.
A question, so if we were to move it to 5, which I'll be honest, I'm just not in favor of it, the timing of it just feels off.
Okay.
But if we had committee meetings what time are the committee meetings starting that day then?
Hopefully you'll
3?
have none on those days. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because you can't guarantee us that there would be no committee meetings, because we don't know what could potentially come up.
That's true. I mean, the goal, every mayor, the goal is to have little to no content there, and you can just have the meeting. If you look at the last ones, that's what we've done. But who knows, 5 years down the road, who's going to be the mayor? We don't know. So to that point, that's a good point to bring up.
I mean, I guess
You guys can do whatever you want. Honestly, it's a discussion item. If you think it's a good idea and you want to vote on it, great. If you don't. But I did feel that it was my job to bring this back to you because several people have brought this up to me. So, Alderman Rozak.
I think, thanks for bringing it up, Mayor. It's a good discussion. I think we either keep the meeting the same time or just get rid of the meetings on election days. There's been discussion about a national holiday for election days. I actually think that makes a lot of sense. The polls are open till 8. So essentially, we'd be moving a meeting to the middle of the time people are trying to go to the polls. And ultimately, we're not here for our convenience. We're here for the people that elected us to come to a meeting if there's something important. So we can't just go a little earlier or end your clients a little earlier or whatever. We're here for the people. These meetings are for the people, not us. So I think if we really don't have anything important to do that night, we just cancel the meeting, or we have the meeting and keep it at the normal times. The other thing is if there is something important, God forbid there's something really important that night, right? People are going to be, when's the meeting? It's always 7:30. Now it's once a year at 5. So I think that really messes people up. So one other little point, City Council does not have the authority to cancel meeting. The mayor calls the meetings. We can deny a quorum, but Mayor, you can send that guy to come and get us if we're nefariously denying quorum. And I don't want to, I'm pointing at you, Chief. I don't want you knocking on my door. So.
Alderman Mulder?
I would.
You're not going to be here either, so.
I'm not going to be here, but so this is a cautionary tale. This year, if we decided that we were going to cancel the April 7th meeting, we would go from March 17th until April 21st without a meeting. That is not doing the people service.
Yep, correct.
So if we want to, and even if we cancel, so canceling 10 days ahead of time still isn't good enough. I mean, I think if it's a short agenda, I have ran for office 3 times. I had no problem coming to this meeting, and I guess the first time I didn't, I wasn't elected. But anyway, it doesn't seem like a big deal to me. If it's not impacting our city clerk and the department, then I don't think it should be at our convenience. But if it helps us run a more fair and equal election, we should be considering it.
And I have no problem with it keeping it at 7:30. It's just, again, it's an open discussion item that people have talked to me about for several years, so. I am assuming that I'm going to ask if anybody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Oh, wait, no, I won't. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
I just,
Yeah.
You can make a
Does-
motion
like, yeah,
to
I mean, yeah,
to not approve the
yeah, I'll make a
ordinance.
motion to not approve it and waive the second reading.
No, you don't.
Or
Then
or
just
no
put it
vote
back.
at all, and we're done.
Or no
So,
vote at all.
does anybody want to or do you want to make that an official motion, or we just want to be done?
Never voted a negative.
Yeah, I'll make that official motion.
And
Do I
I'll
have a
second it.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Wait, time out.
Yeah,
Oh.
are we creating an ordinance that we're voting on we're voting on the negative? We're creating an ordinance that says what we already have as an
All right,
ordinance.
so I'll make a
So
motion.
why are we even
Well, no,
amending it?
That's
Just let
true.
it die on the
You're
floor.
right. You're right.
There's no reason to make a motion.
Yeah.
We're moving to do nothing.
There's nothing to change,
There's nothing to change.
so
That's true.
There's just no
do you
action.
rescind
I
that
rescind it.
motion?
Yeah, I take it back.
Do you rescind your second?
Absolutely.
Okay. So hearing no motion, we'll move on to our next item without objection.
But any-
Hearing,
oh, never mind. Go on.
do you have an objection, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So without hearing objection, there will be no vote. Everything for the record will stay the same, and we'll move on to staff reports.
Just one real quick. Jason Geller, city planner, distributed at your stations the housing affordability analysis for 2025. This is a report that he does annually, and it looks at, how the pricing of homes in the city compared to other areas. So it's a quick little report. It has a lot of good information in it. If you have any questions on it at all, feel free to reach out to Jason Gallo.
Any comments from Alderman? No comments from Alderman? I have a couple comments as mayor. Just want to make sure council's fully aware. I know you've received the emails. I hope some of you may be able to make the State of the City, which will be on next Thursday at 8 a.m. at the community center. It's run by the Chamber of Commerce. It's about an hour and a half program. It includes breakfast, but you need to register, and you need to register before the end of day tomorrow, of Thursday. So it's filling up, and we hope that you're able to come. The presentation and the PowerPoint, including the embedded videos, will be posted as the other State of the Cities are in the mayor's section of the city website. So that will be there. I would also like to ask our two applicants, candidates for alderman, if you guys would both come up to the podium, please. So does everybody know them? Has everybody met them?
No,
No, okay. No, Kevin?
I have not.
Okay, so if you do a brief introduction, that would be great. And my hat's off to both of you. You both have been coming several times. And thank you for putting your names in the hat for running for office.
I'll go first. My name is April Welch. I've lived in Oconomowoc for 13 years. My husband Will's from this area. Main reason I'm running is I love this city. And what we have here is really special, and I want to do my part in serving it and to preserve what we have here. So, thank you.
That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a hard one to follow.
Just say ditto. You're good.
Yeah. You've met me before. This is fine. My name is Zach Frankowski. I've lived in Oconomowoc for close to 6 years. I've been a long time, almost lifelong Wisconsin resident. Grew up in Lake Country. And coming to Oconomowoc has just been, started out as an interesting experience. And I just came to love this community and got involved and aware of the goings on here and felt like I was passionate enough about our community to get directly involved. So, yeah, it's a pleasure being in front of you again, Council and Mayor Magnus.
Yeah, and thank you. I've reached out to both and have offered any services from the city. If you want to talk to myself, as I've mentioned to both of you, or I'm sure any of the aldermen will be happy to talk to you. It's always important to try to get up to speed, and it's a little hard sometimes. There are a lot of moving parts because we're a busy community. But again, from a resident standpoint and from the mayor's standpoint, thank you very much for putting your names in the hat. So,
Thank you.
I want to wish everybody a great warming up weekend. And it looks like we had a wonderful Chili Fest. I wasn't able to attend, but it looks like that was a lot of fun. And thank you, staff, all for coming. Chief and Chief, thank you both for being here. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.